And we are online, 3rd of March. Two Guys with Spare Time, NBA podcast. We haven't been online for a couple of weeks, man, and hopefully you're feeling better. I can see you've got a new t-shirt on. What happened to the red t-shirt, man? Who are
It's
you?
it just rotates through. I've got a couple of t-shirts that I wear around the house and that. I feel like you know what, maybe in the future I need to get into the NBA apparel.
Yeah, like,
Have a
I've
jersey on
started
my
being
kit.
rocking what we're actually talking about. Isn't that what you got to do, man?
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'd have to talk about Game of Thrones, but that'd be a whole other
And
topic.
and I know
But
nothing about Game of Thrones because I've watched 0 episodes.
wow, wow, you just never got on the I mean, look, anytime's a good time to jump on, especially when you can binge it. But um, I guess I guess chewing up the NBA season is taking up a lot of our time, and I watched a couple of games this weekend. I watched Lakers and Nuggets specifically today, and obviously that's like a 1v10 matchup right now, really. With Denver kind of jockeying for that first position, winning the game, and Lakers pretty safely in that 10 spot with them being 6 games ahead of Utah. So it's kind of safe to assume that they'll be in the play-in. And it was a nice close game up until the end, and Denver pulled away as they often do. But it got me thinking a little bit. We know that the conferences are not even. So I'm going to tell you a number right now. Between Minnesota, who's first, and Los Angeles Lakers, who are 10th, there is 9 wins between them, right? Or 11 losses in this case. And then you look at the Eastern Conference, and first is Boston, last is Atlanta. There's 21 wins in between them, or 22 losses in between them. So, in case you weren't tracking that data, because I said a lot of numbers at you, the distance between the best team in the West making the playoffs and the worst team that's trying to go for the play-in, the gap has doubled from West to East, and it got me thinking: how which teams in the West would you be shocked actually make it to the NBA Finals? Right. Um, Denver's obviously the clear favorite. I feel like because they're repeating champions, because they've got the continuity, they got the squad, they're pretty good. But how shocking would it be if I said Minnesota ends up being in the finals, or OKC, or the Clippers, or Phoenix, or Sacramento, or Dallas, or Warriors, or Lakers? And I guess the conversation out of here is the playoffs are going to be very interesting, where the East is borderline a foregone conclusion that it'll be Bucks and Celtics in the conference finals, and the West is very difficult to predict, and a legitimate contender probably is going to be eliminated in the second round. And I guess to round out the take here so that you can actually respond, do you think that this is probably one of the most stacked 1 through 10 West things that we've had in recent times?
It's an interesting take here. I guess maybe let's start with the first question. So, like, who would be a shocking team to see in the finals? Let's start with the West, yeah. And honestly, maybe any team right now currently fighting for a playoff spot besides the Denver Nuggets, who are the current champions, would actually be fairly shocking to see them in the NBA Finals. Let's be clear, yeah, obviously the T-Wolves and the Thunder are exceeding probably expectations this season. They've got a up-and-coming core. T-Wolves made that trade, and a few trades obviously that have sort of really come together now as a bigger picture. But either of those teams in the final, that would be shocking. Yeah, that's the first reality there. Then what we got like the Kings, somewhere at the top of the ladder with the Clippers. Again, those are sort of two teams that have not had that much success for many years. Maybe back in the 90s, that was when the Kings were obviously relevant back then. And I guess again, seeing them at the top of the West and representing the West in the finals, that would be shocking. And then if you sort of move down the standings a little bit here, we're talking about, let's say, Phoenix suddenly got it all together being in the finals again. That would be shocking. For you, you'd be, happily shocked, no doubt. But then I guess, again, if you saw the Warriors or you saw the Lakers in the finals, that would be shocking too. Like, no one would really pitch that they're going to be able to sort of win their way from the play-in potentially all the way through to the finals at this point. I think it's a sort of really broad question. I'd like to go, oh, well, it'd be this team clearly. Yeah, but it really would be. And I guess if you jump over to the East, it's probably a similar sort of situation. You're sort of talking about a foregone conclusion for the Celtics and Bucks to be in that conference finals and going through. But I think there's clubs out there that gonna say they've got a case to cause an upset here. How about the Heat, man? Yeah, they were the ones that went all the way through last year, and they're sort of starting around in a form as well. If they can stay healthy, you always got to say they got a chance. Knicks, if they can get everyone back healthy, and that's a big if in a sense, but if they can get everyone back healthy, they're deep after the trade deadline, and they're ready to sort of win some playoffs rounds in a sense, right? And the Cavs right now are rolling. So, and again, if any of those names didn't get to the finals, let's say you suddenly had like I don't know, Clippers versus Cavs finals, that would be shocking. And you could pick any sort of combination there that would somewhat be shocking. I don't know. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think that's what's interesting is that it's not a foregone conclusion like it is in a lot of other seasons. I sincerely feel that in the West, you could safely say, um, I think 5 to 6 teams have finals contention. In the East, I feel like it's 2, 3 if you want to throw the wild card of Miami in there. I don't view Cleveland and New York as legitimate contenders just yet, but normally what you're dealing with is you're dealing with 1 or 2 teams from each conference, right? As pretty safe bets to make it through. But I feel like the West is just so open. Admittedly, though, watching Denver dismantle the Lakers today, maybe we get to the playoffs and they start sweeping everybody, and and you know what? As an additional take here, now that I'm talking in real time, Denver obviously got a lot of scrutiny last season for who they played, right? So they end up obviously they always play the 8th seed, then they play the 5th seed, and then they play the 7th seed or something like that, and then they play the 8th seed in the finals. And a lot of people felt like
Mm.
very easy path to it, and maybe this is the season that Denver repeats and puts to bed a lot of those competitive rumors. So I'm excited, like not that I want to wish away time here, but we're still a month away from the playoffs really shaping out. But I'm very keen for the Western playoffs, right? Obviously, I've got a stake in it with see how Phoenix plays. I'm not super confident with how strong the West is, but everyone as I said, everyone in the West right now feels like they have a fighter's chance to make it through.
I think there's a level of when was the last time after the Warriors dynasty ended with a whole bunch of injuries and then KD leaving town that there was a foregone conclusion? Yeah, I think it was surprising that the Bucks won. And they hadn't won for like 50 years or something like that. The Lakers jumped in there, and the bubble sort of stole a championship. Denver getting their first ring. And I guess this is a level of the CBA trying to create that level of parity, which is probably great for sports in general, right? If you have X amount of contenders, it leaves the intrigue and the excitement somewhat of what would happen versus, oh my God, when the Warriors were steamrolling through those years where they just, were killing it, that was a bit of a foregone conclusion. So, but I think it's just a look, I don't know how to take it. I think it's good for sports. It's good for the NBA. But right now, you're just guessing, and it's a level of health, but it's a level probably of experience that I think is going to come through. Yeah, if you think about the Grizzlies and the Warriors, yeah, last time they met, I think 2 seasons ago now. Yeah, and it was clear that the Grizzlies were an up and coming team, and after all the things that they've sort of short circuited themselves at their own doing to a certain extent, yeah, but they were up and coming team, but there was still that level of experience that outstood the youth and the upcoming component of that. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is that let's say OKC was to face Denver, you'd have to favor Denver. Yeah, let's say you said the T Wolves were going to face the Clippers. Yeah, you'd have to probably lean towards the Clippers. Yeah, if you're saying two healthy lineups there, okay, the Clippers have had the track record being healthy and the resumes going deep into playoff runs, including Kawhi Leonard Finals MVP sort of situation, yeah, to potentially go quite deep. Maybe there's a question mark there with James Harden. Will he implode again in a sort of a clutch sort of situation, pressure situation? Perhaps. Okay, and of course, at some point these young teams win through. Yeah, but this time is the first time around the Thunder and the T-Wolves, for example, are going to be featured prominently home court more than likely in the playoffs, and you feel that there might be a stumbling block, just like the Kings had last season.
I, I guess the issue with that take would be the veteran teams that you need to kind of keep those younger teams humbled or in check aren't really there. So outside of Denver in the top 4, I don't know if I'd put the Clippers as a veteran team ready to humble a young team. I don't even know if I'd feel confident putting Phoenix there. I know they have individual parts who've had good playoff experience and success, but not as a unit, right? As you referenced with the CBA thing, the teams that are consistent in their core out of the top 10, you would say Denver, maybe the Lakers, maybe Warriors, and then everyone else has been kind of assembled in the last season or two. So it's interesting, but it actually got me thinking as well. Just to throw in a third thing, are we going to see a decade where we don't have like a dominant team, right? So I don't know if you look back in NBA history, you look at the championship winners, every decade there's always a team that probably takes a minimum of 3 championships, right? And depending on the decade, sometimes you just get two of those teams and that chews up most of the title winners. So already at this decade you have, if you're including 2020, because I know some people start their decades on 21 and some will start on 20, but you've got Lakers, Bucks, Warriors, and then Denver. And let's say we get a new champion this year, that's pretty uncommon, right? And if it obviously continues, if none of those teams repeat, could we have 8 to 10 different champions in a decade? Do you think that's possible with the parity at this point?
Possible, possible, but history has shown that I think when a team is successful and at the top of their game and in a prime, and they remain healthy. There's a lot of factors here that have to come into play, right? And they remain healthy. You have to say that the Warriors, if KD and Clay did not get injured, probably could have and should have won that championship. And that could have changed a whole bunch of, wheels in motion and what happened and KD's decision and blah, 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 and Clay and where he's at now and how the decline of the Warriors played out. And ultimately, they got a ring later. Yeah, so, that's a whole nother story. Um, I, I'm not, I wouldn't be shocked, okay, if Denver repeated. Because in part, that's the part of the parity that plays into play. Yeah, it's not that there's anyone else that's a favorite. So to suggest that the champs repeat long as they remain healthy, why would they not? They still have Jokic. Yeah, they still have their starting five. Their bench might be a little bit less experienced, but you know, there's still that sort of reality that they've been there, they've done that, and that is important. And that's what I was alluding to before, that it is important that you've played all the way through to the finals. It's a whole different game, pressure situations, and getting that job done. And they had to go through those teething pains too, right? They got eliminated in the bubble when they sort of probably should have won that sort of series, and they had to go through those teething pains too. It is rare that a team gets all the way to win a ring without those teething pains and the heartbreak of a series that they probably could have or should have won, but they did not.
Thanks for humoring on this one. I feel like I had something in my head I wanted to discuss, but I didn't know how to frame it. So I think we got there in the end. We talked about parity, we talked about
But
competitiveness, we
but you
talked
know
about
what?
some
On that note, I actually wanted to play ties into my point I was going to talk about today, man. I don't know. You like conspiracies, man. You like narratives, yeah. I don't know. Have you watched all the Matrix? I presume you have, right? Like,
don't get me started
So
on the Matrix.
Game of Thrones and Matrix. Let's not go there tonight. But hey, I was thinking today. I was like, oh, what are we going to talk about tonight? And I was like, if Denver was to win again, if Jokic was to get another MVP, are we watching a rerun right now? Dame just got the three-point championship again. Yeah. The All-Star game was boring as shit. The Lakers are the same old crap that they do, right? And you just talk about them because LeBron's still there. It's like I feel like we're recycling a lot of narratives here that I think we've seen this before. I've been watching the NBA for a long time since I don't know, I was 10 years old or 8 years old or whatever I was. Yeah, and I feel like I've seen a lot of this stuff before. Like I would actually like to see. I don't know. Why don't we just see like a I don't know. What would we see here? A Clippers and a Knicks final. Yeah, how about that? Yeah, a Clippers and a Knicks final, and then somehow PG wins Finals MVP because the Clippers somehow win their first ring and go to their new stadium next year. Wow, wow, that would be a new narrative. Write that one, please. The conspiracy team at the NBA. I don't know, man. I feel like I've seen this all before. Maybe. What do you think?
So you're getting on the script standpoint, in which it's part of the script for it all to play
I,
out the way it plays out.
I just,
I
I
like
just,
it.
I just don't. I feel like if you actually take a little bit of a deeper look here, it's like, haven't we seen this all before? Or maybe what we're actually experiencing here is that we're now older, all right, and we've seen a sports cycle occur. Maybe that's what's going on here. And we all talk about rebuilding teams. Teams win. They generally, not all franchises, but teams generally sort of have cycles where they win, they're successful, they have a period of a window of potential, whether that's potential to make playoffs or potential and be a finals champion is a different story. Then they have a rebuilding period and it sort of cycles through. And then you've got those bit players that just constantly want to be that 41 win team and just be in the playoffs, but never really competitive, aka the Hawks, aka the Magic. Yeah, aka the Hornets are constantly terrible. I don't know, yeah, but and I guess that's I don't know. I just feel like I said, a lot of these things we've seen before, and a lot of the things this season are exactly things that we've seen really, really recently. I don't know, man. Surely there's someone out there that can just spoil this MVP conversation. Maybe SGA actually wins MVP.
No, but see, that would probably be the main point is that we're probably in a repeated era where how do you not give it to Jokic again, right? As an MVP standpoint. And it's very similar to what we dealt with when LeBron was winning it consecutively and Michael Jordan was winning it consecutively. You want to find these other narratives, but sometimes greatness just continually just just does it. Like I watched the Lakers in a Denver game today, and if you ask me how many points did you see Jokic score, um, I wouldn't be able to tell you 35. He just accumulates 35. How many
Mm-hmm.
passes did he pass out that gave an assist? I wouldn't be able to tell you that it was like 10 plus. It just happens over time. He really is a subtle superstar. I've seen some really nice defensive clips going around of him as well. Like, obviously, everyone looks at him and just naturally assumes that he can't play defense, but then there's a lot of interesting actions where, he's got very active hands and he kind of deceives the player into making a bad call. He's just playing very well. The team's healthy around him. They got the right thing. If they win it again and he wins Finals MVP again, and Miami crushes everyone again, kind of proving that trading for Dame is a waste and trading for Kristaps is a waste, then that's all good. Maybe we should put some money down now. I think one thing that you could probably look at for a conspiracy standpoint is just how many people are throwing it off the backboard and then dunking it. I feel like I've seen that highlight almost every second day at this point. Everyone's doing it all of a sudden. And this has been a move that's been allowed for years. But for some reason, this is the season everyone collaboratively decided, oh, wait, no one's allowed in the key because of defensive three. So if I beat my first guy and I get a step on him, I can just throw it up and dunk it. And everyone's doing it now. So I think that's where the real conspiracy lies. Why is everyone suddenly dunking off the backboard when they could have been doing this for years?
I feel embarrassed now. I have to admit something that I actually don't watch NBA highlights anymore. I, I've gone from a point where I obviously was watching highlights on a daily basis, and I don't watch them anymore. Maybe for the same thing you're actually saying here, because I feel like I've seen them all before. And I guess you're alluding to that you're clearly watching these highlights, and why is this occurring over and over again this season? That's what you're sort of saying, right? And I guess
Well,
what I'm saying is that I don't watch highlights because it feels like I've seen every single circus shot in the league until that really one that you just haven't seen. I don't know. It just feels like that.
I'm suddenly getting a vision that will get a comment that says that we're casuals or that we don't watch, because that's already happened before as well. So while I keep predicting crazy things in the future, I feel like this is a safe prediction. I feel like you're going to agree with this, and we can move on topics really quickly. Joel Embiid's knee injury has clearly derailed the Sixers season, and he's not coming back to have any significant impact in them beating the Bucks or Celtics, respectively. And it's another season that doesn't pan out for Joel Embiid, which then leads into the actual take, because I think that's a safe assumption at this point. Are we looking at the next Yao Ming? Are we looking at a guy that could only string together less than 10 years, dominant 10 years, but just couldn't pull it together, and it's just going to fizzle out really quickly?
Well, it'd be shocking if the Sixers won it. How about that? Clippers Sixers final, Joel Embiid finals MVP, have just 40 points a game on 39 minutes. That would be shocking. Yeah. And on the other flip side, it would equally be shocking that Embiid is Yao Ming, or the next Yao Ming, right? Um, but guess what? Players get injured, and that's the human body. Yeah, and now we're opening that can of worms for you to talk about injuries in the human body, right? And the physiology of muscles and bones and tendons and whatever. Okay, because hey, if we're talking about Joel Embiid being the next, potentially the next Yao Ming. Well, we might as well talk about, Lonzo Ball as being the next Brandon Roy. We might as well talk about LaMelo Ball might be the next Penny Hardaway. Yeah, I love Penny Hardaway. And I actually love LaMelo Ball too. I'm a big fan of his, yeah. But, can we get him on the court healthy? And this is the reality of talented players sometimes have careers cut short. And even those that are less talented simply do not get back on the court healthy for one reason or another, and then they sort of fade out of the NBA spotlight. Maybe they have careers that are successful overseas in sort of other, I guess, lower skilled leagues, I guess, in that sense. But, um, man, I think it's just the reality of what it is. Yeah, fingers crossed he'll come back and continue being an MVP contender for a few more years of his prime. But between age and wear and tear and everything else that sort of happens, I think it's just the reality, man, of sports.
It is, but it doesn't stop us from making proclamations that careers are
Are you
over.
are you
Or
suggesting that Joel Embiid will be the next Yami?
I think Joel Embiid is very much on pace because he's approaching 30 or is 30. This meniscus tear and a bucket tear specifically, without going into the nitty gritty details that I totally want to do, this is a timeline that he did not need on top of all of the other lower leg injuries. And he's a big dude. He was super dominant, but he just can't stay out of his own way. And that's not in a knock way. I don't think that's a work ethic issue. Just some people aren't. When we look at LeBron and we look at the conversation that surrounds him, you can't not now talk about the fact that he's done it for 21 years and there's been significant investment and luck about his health. And unfortunately for Joel Embiid, maybe he's had some level of investment, but it's clearly an issue of luck now. And once that snowball starts and you pick up a couple of injuries, it just doesn't stop. And that's what is happening to Joel Embiid. And the Sixers are built completely for him. Tyrese Maxey is obviously a bright spot for him, but I don't see Tyrese Maxey as being their savior in lieu of Joel Embiid not being there. The Sixers were ride or die with him, doing fantastic with him, will do very average without him. And I don't see it moving much better than what it was. I think that 40 game stretch was as optimistic as it could be for the
I,
Sixers.
I feel like you could turn this into some super hot take that you're basically saying the Sixers should trade Joel Embiid right now. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
You want me to say it?
They
Do
should,
you want me
they
to say
should,
it?
they should. Well, didn't I say it first? That they should put Joel Embiid on the block because he's at his highest value right now. Because right now he's gonna crash like Bitcoin crashed right a few years ago. Because that's what's going on down in his knees and in his lower body, right? Hey man, look, I think the reality here is that NBA teams are clearly firmly tied towards their superstars' success and health. Yeah. Like, you can only imagine that the Bulls had Lonzo Ball. And we've talked about this one before. Yeah, you can only imagine they had Lonzo Ball healthy for the last, what, 3 years or so now. Because when he went down, they were first in the East. Yeah, crazy. He was that pass guard, pass first got point guard that complemented these sort of wings where they had DeRozan and Levine, and before Levine now is all injured every second week sort of thing. Yeah, that's a whole nother what if story. And obviously the Clippers for many years before this season, where Kawhi got healthy and PG got fairly healthy, and they're obviously playing more games than they missed. Yeah, all right, they ride and die with that sort of money invested in those players, and that's what happens with these organizations. And I guess the Sixers are really one that's just got Embiid as that player that's their superstar. And like you said, man, it is unfortunate and a bit of bad luck, really, for whatever reason, that they get injuries, whether it's due to size or genetics or obviously just game incidents. Because what happened? Didn't someone roll on his knee or something?
He was already battling an injury going into that Golden State game, but then Jonathan Kaminga essentially
Correct.
landed on his leg while flat.
Yeah.
You could make an argument and say perhaps there's got to be better body preservation from a guy that's 7 foot that has injuries, not to be on the floor when people land on it. But we've both played basketball. So much happens in a game where no one gets hurt. There's some freak accidents from time to time. There's non-contact. There's contact. It is what it is. I just think, like you look at their record, they're 4-6 in their last 10 games. You can't see them getting above 500, really. They'll maintain that pace. And if they don't have him going into a playoff series, even if they do, we kind of know with the battle knocks that you get in the playoffs, he doesn't seem to last that either. It just doesn't look good for the Sixers. It just doesn't look good for the Sixers.
Well, I guess talking about teams with losing records, man, I wanted to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks here and our new head coach Doc Rivers, right? And right now he's still got a losing record, I believe, yeah, with the Bucks. And it got me thinking actually a few days ago. I was like, here's another narrative I've never heard. Yeah, I would be like, yeah, wow, I'll open my eyes here. The Milwaukee Bucks fired their second coach in one season. Now that would be a story I'd read about. And has that ever happened? Okay, now we need that stats guy, right? Every week we need that stats guy. We need right now. Has that ever happened in a season of NBA or professional sports where a head coach was fired twice, all right, in one season at one team? Okay, then and because right now I think the Bucks are still treading water. I think it's almost crazy that they went a whole different direction with a new head coach, even though they may have had concerns with Adrian Griffin, but he was starting to roll. He actually was starting to roll. They took a while to get going at the start of the season. They traded 500 for a little while. Then they started to figure out where they needed players to be. Yeah, sure, our defense was not great. That's a big part of, along with other things that I've read about Adrian Griffin being let go. But right now you're going back to scratch, game 60 or so into the season, or game 50 when, Doc Rivers came in. Let's start again. Let's bring in his new philosophy. Let's improve the defense. We're not winning again. Let's do that all over again. And then we get to the playoffs, and then you get to deal with the Doc Rivers sort of playoff coaching experience, right? And I don't know. I think I saw a take about was it Stephen A. or maybe saying they're saying this is like Doc Rivers' last chance. And man, I don't know, man. It's just an interesting situation why his name continues to be recycled in head coaching circles that he's a championship caliber coach when it's been a while since he's shown he's a championship caliber sort of coach.
The 2008 Celtics on his resume is doing more for him than most people's job from 14, 16 years ago is doing. I feel like, in most industries, if I'm correct, you need to get rid of those kind of things off your resume because they're just outdated at that point. Look, the Adrian Griffin stuff was really interesting. They had a really good offensive rating
Mm,
with a really bad defensive rating, and you hear people often talk about defense being effort. Um, they haven't changed personnel significantly. I don't know what schemes Doc Rivers is doing that's changed their defensive, but they went from like
mm,
25th ish to like 8th in their defense.
mhm.
Now, if they had the same level of effort when Adrian Griffin was coaching, do they have the same defensive rating? That's up for you to debate. There was obviously a big discussion: is it Giannis or is it Dame? Right? Because usually star players have a little bit of say in this, or is it new ownership? Because obviously Milwaukee Bucks ownership shifted in the last couple of years. Is it people just scrambling? I don't know why they made that change. It is actually kind of difficult to fathom.
It's funny
Um,
you talk about the
it
ratings, defensive, offensive ratings, man. Didn't they go from a defensive-minded coach like Mike Budenholzer, and they didn't think that was successful, and they fired him?
he was about most people believe that was about in-game adjustments and offensive stuff, right? I think the issue with the Bucks, you've moved too many parts at the exact same time. You don't really know what you've got.
Mm.
You can't fire a coach, add a new coach, then add a new star player, and then only give it a 40 game sample and then go from there. And kind of history says when you trade for an all-star franchise caliber player, you don't win that season. So the Bucks gave up on Adrian Griffin halfway through because they're trying to cheat the system and win this season where history is not on their side. It wouldn't be shocking that the Bucks don't win the championship this season. They'll probably need one more season to gel and get it consistently through. So
What you're saying is it
uh,
would be shocking if the Bucks actually won now, and somehow Doc Rivers gets to ride this championship for another 15 years. Is that what you're saying?
Doc Rivers would,
he might
okay,
ent-
if Doc
he might
Rivers,
enter the conversation of the greatest NBA head coach ever.
no, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. But what Doc Rivers would inherit with this championship is any team once he fishes, like let's say he wins the championship, finishes his tenure with the Bucks, and he's just doing media again, or he's just chilling. Any team who has good players and they're not winning in the first 40 games, Doc Rivers is going to be on every ESPN first take special and be like, you know who's available that you could fix your team with? Doc Rivers.
You,
And
you
he's
know
going to
what's
ride
funny?
that for another 15
You know
years.
what's funny? That struck my memory here. You know, another name that always has popped up for many years now was Jeff Van Gundy.
Oh, yeah,
Jeff
Jeff
Van
Van Gundy.
Gundy, and Jeff Van Gundy has not been on an NBA head coaching role since the New York Knicks of I don't know what the early 2000s, and obviously he's
Nah,
been on the
Houston, I think.
Jeff Van Gundy in
Yeah, I'm pretty
Houston.
sure.
Are you
Look,
sure? I feel like
I'm
stats guy.
saying words
Please,
here.
someone tell us these stats
I'm
right now.
checking it.
But what I'm saying that this name has Jeff Van Gundy. No, I'm not saying that he's a good or bad coach. I'm saying his name continues to be recycled, and yes, you associate him with success. And I guess what you were trying to say here is Doc Rivers. We somewhat continue to associate him with I won a championship, head coach championship, Ubuntu KG. You know, anything's possible. Yeah, but we sort of forget. Oh, hold on, we choked at all these playoffs. We're up 3 games to 1 or whatever it was, and we didn't make the adjustments. We didn't get the motivation. We didn't play with the effort, intensity, or game plan to get the job done. And somehow the Bucks think that this guy is going to be the one that takes them to the ring again. It would be shocking if the Bucks won the championship this year.
Yeah, look, the Bucks' direction is difficult. They traded, like trading for Dame makes a lot of sense, but they did trade some defensive identity to get him. Dame's also an aging superstar who, up until this point in his career, hasn't played with anyone of substance, and you're seeing that in real time. Dame's having a down year statistically, is kind of struggling to fit in a little bit, and I don't know why you think Doc Rivers is the cure for that offensive flow. And Doc Rivers' idea was to run more pick and roll with those two players. I don't know about your level of experience with coaching, but I feel like if you paid me a couple of million, I'd come in and I'd be like, yeah, I really like that and that person doing a pick and roll together. Let's try that and see how that looks. And I'll call a timeout and I'll do some subs and you give me those bags and I'll be good.
I think we're doubling down now that Dame Lillard somehow won the 3-point shootout. And he's still some superstar shooter. Because last game I saw him play, he shot something like 4 from 18. Yeah, so you run a pick and roll and you just sag off him and let him shoot 4 from 18 right now. His game, his shooting, let's be more specific, has totally abandoned him since he arrived in Milwaukee.
Oh,
All right, and
it,
and I know this firsthand because I had him on fantasy league,
you traded
and
him.
and I gave him away literally. I gave him away as a part of a 3-for-1 trade. I literally gave him away as part of a 3-for-1 trade because it was a addition by subtraction that at least I don't have a player that's gonna kill me in percentages 4 from 18 or something crazy like that, which is done every third game literally this season. All right, Dame has gone cold, yeah, but hey, look, we talked about Dame a few weeks ago now about how missed a bit of his Dame time. He gave us one clutch moment. We saw him at All Star turn up, All Star Weekend turn up a little bit and get some headlines. Yeah, man, this is all shocking stuff, man. Just like it would be shocking if somehow I won NBA fantasy. Yeah. Um, we haven't talked about NBA fantasy in a while, man. I think. I've been sort of going a bit of a win streak at the moment. I'm up to like third, and I don't. It doesn't really matter. Second place, third, right? So I either finish second or third. I'm not going to catch you. That's okay. It means I don't have to play you first round, whichever way it ends up, right? If I avoided fourth. And man, I'm coming for you, man. Yeah. What are we gonna? What's the last bit of trash talk 2 weeks before playoffs? Hey.
I think I'm very excited for our matchup because I was looking through some stats, and I don't want to bore people, but we are going to have, assuming that we both make the finals and something drastic doesn't occur, we're going to have a very close series. It is not going to be a 7-2. It's not going to be an 8-1. It will be a 4-5. And I'm probably going to win points. You're probably going to win turnovers and rebounds and field goal. And I'm probably going to win assists. I'm probably going to win steals. I'm probably going to win three
So
point,
what's it come
maybe
down to?
three.
Blocks? Is it gonna come down to blocks? Did you just
It
give me
might
Chet
come
Holmgren
down.
and block let it go Brooke Lopez?
It might come down to blocks. It might come down to 3 point percentage field goal. But you and I have a couple of categories locked up. We can safely bank two or three, and then there's a couple of categories that can fluctuate. Some weeks for me, like right now, I lead the league in 3 point percentage, but you wouldn't know it because currently I'm shooting like 30%. But tomorrow I've got a massive game day. Like everyone on my roster is pretty much playing. It'll be interesting when the playoffs roll around what things look like. So, I'm quite fortunate. I've got a pretty West heavy team. Safe to assume Western stars will still be playing quite strong games. in 3 weeks' time. An Eastern team, if you've got someone like Trae Young, who just went out with injury, or even Jaren Jackson Jr., and I'm mentioning someone's team, and don't hate me for it, but some players are going to have less investment as we get closer to the end of the season. And having those players on your team, don't be shocked if they suddenly get shut down for the season because they're not an All NBA
The
consideration and there's no
Wembanyama
reason.
getting shut down.
Wembanyama's not getting
Game
shut down. Are you
65,
kidding
game
me?
65 getting shut down.
It's definitely a narrative you tried to peddle. I think that I actually legitimately think they want to try him in as much action as possible.
You don't think they'll manage
Um,
his minutes?
they've already managed his minutes.
Or
They've
even
already got
even
his minutes
more,
managed.
even more, down to 20
There's no
minutes a
need
game.
to. He needs to play. He needs to okay. So as someone who has Wembanyama,
Not in a season that
um,
they've got 11 wins.
but I don't. They're not going to jockey their position any better than what they got. They're not going to go below Detroit or Washington. What they need to do is they need to get that young core some experience together, and they need to play. And you know what, they need to play significant games, which they're going to, because people are going to play them who are in the playoff hunt. Look at them and say, "Well, we need to get this win," and so they're going to have teams' best efforts. They need to get the continuity because they need to know who they're keeping as their young core, and they need to move forward with that core. I feel quite confident that Wembanyama is going to play. I'd, as I said, be more confident. Sorry, more concerned with players who are suddenly on a team that's no longer in the hunt and isn't trying to build a young core. Right, that would be where I would be concerned.
So, do you drop Wembanyama when you hear that he's getting shut down,
Is he getting shut down?
or if he's getting his minutes managed?
No, because even when he had his minutes management, that was the day that he's put up like the 20 and triple five or whatever it was in like a half. Like, look what he does. He is the leader in blocks and steals, a category I clearly need to maintain. I take the bad 3-point percentage with him. I take the
You
limited
almost
assist.
sound like an organization that's firmly tied with this rookie that may or may not win Rookie of the Year. And if he were to get shut down, what would that do for your fantasy franchise, Nick? And I hear Booker's just rolled his ankle.
Booker did just roll his ankle. Just listed day to day. Booker's actually been. You know what? Booker has not panned out the way I wanted to when I drafted him. I had high hopes that this was the MVP season with the right team around him to help kind of space the floor, give him what he needs to do.
Mm.
He just, as someone who is an avid Phoenix Sun supporter, will ride with Devin Booker because he's got that killer Kobe mentality. We are seeing the dog days of Kobe where the stats don't mean a lot and it doesn't help the team a lot of the time. That's the easiest take I take for him.
You got any
Obviously,
fi-
Evan Mobley coming back
That was a
was
good
helpful.
pickup, man. That was a good pickup, man. I should, anyone should have grabbed him when he was on the waiver wire, still injured. But you're right. I grabbed Ben Simmons. You grabbed Evan Mobley. Good on you. You win that choice.
Yeah, that was
and, uh,
that.
and
No one
and
who would have thought
and
that would work out
and,
for
and,
you.
and here's another shocking reality that somehow if I do win this fantasy season, that I traded away Ant Edwards for Lonzo Ball, who's played about 3 games for me, but and may not, and probably, let's be clear, if you're smart in Charlotte right now, probably is not going to come back this season. I'm being realistic, yeah, that I don't think LaMelo Ball, sorry, is coming back this season. And if he comes back, it might be like a small 5 or 10 game window, and that's it, and then we're done for you for the season, yeah. So hey, look, we all have our missteps in fantasy land, especially when there's so much talent on the waiver wire, and people do some crazy things in the preseason, and and there's only 6 teams in the league, right? I guess the the reality here is there any final moves that you make now that you would like to make here? I'm not asking you to spoil what you're sort of up your sleeve, but is there some fantasy thing you'd like to do right now? Because, look, let's be clear. I'd like to get Lamelo Ball healthy. Yeah, that'd be nice, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I did actually put a trade offer out there too, but I'll tell you that trade offer in a sec. You tell me first if there's anything else that you'd like on your wish list to just finish off this season, and let's go into the playoffs and let's see what happens.
Well, barring any injuries that make me reshuffle what I'm doing,
Are you riding
there's
with AG? Are
probably.
you riding with AG? Is he going to take you to the promised land?
So what's happened was Kyrie was injured for a period of time, came out of injury replacement, has been balling, but I didn't want to drop AG just yet. All right. And what ended up happening was Paolo got injured or was out for a game or two from illness. So I just traded with that. Now Paolo sits on my injury slot. Paolo is the best player on the Magic statistically, like leads them in all the categories. I don't want to lose him either. But I guess the reservation is I don't want to do anything just in case, right? Because the waiver wire, I know you're alluding to it being somewhat good. I don't think it is. I think there are good day-to-day players, but I don't think there's good consistent players anymore. I think teams are relatively established. Um, Şengün has declined, at least from me looking at the box scores
Drop him,
every single
drop him.
day. And Aaron Gordon obviously is not the caliber player that I want. Would I be open to a trade for these players? Of course I would be. But, clearly I'm in a
How
win
about
now
Miles
mode.
Bridges? He's gone cold right now. I think he's gone, he's slumped the last few weeks right now.
I would say Miles Bridges a little bit too good to drop into waiver because Miles Bridges is an upgraded version of what Aaron Gordon gives you, and a pretty consistent version of what Paolo gives you too. So there's those kind of things.
Well, you got to swing
In
for
terms of,
yeah, what do you got to say? You go.
well, Scotty Barnes just entered the waiver wire, but he has
Did they
just
drop him?
broken.
Did someone drop Scotty Barnes? I didn't even know that.
But,
Headlines.
but But if you're not aware, because I'm just finding this out in real time, he has broken a bone in his hand.
Okay, how long is he out
So
for?
that is currently not. It is not. What do you call it? It's multiple weeks is the guess.
Yep.
But obviously, with Toronto's situation, they might shut him down for the season at that point. That would be
True.
unfathomable. Aiton. I mean, I did an Aiton take ages ago, but I'll do it again. By God, what the hell happened to Aiton? Right? Consistent double machine if he plays. I wouldn't have pegged him as that kind of person, but he's currently out of a hand injury. Jordan Poole, I mean, if you want someone to kill your percentages, then he's the
You might as
guy.
well grab Clay Thompson too. Yeah, they both do the same thing now, just at different clubs.
Exactly. Keegan Murray is a pretty solid forward there, but there's games where Keegan Murray looks really good, and then there's other games where Keegan Murray is a legitimate role player. And I guess in this fantasy league, you need big performers. You can't really be relying on that. Chris Middleton's sitting there as an injury guy. There's names on there, but I just don't see players who are going to have significant contributions.
It depends what cat you're looking for, what category you're looking for, and that's always a decision point that you have to make. Which sort of, like I said, I was going to say that sometimes you got to swing for the fences, like I've sort of done all season long since I started, woefully. Is that I made a trade offer out there. I'll spin it past you. I don't think you've seen it. It was not accepted. I don't believe. So that's fair enough. But the trade offer was LaMelo Ball and KD for Jokic. What do you think?
All right, as someone who has actively in person worked on getting this Jokic, here's a trade offer that I offered this person that was also declined. Wembanyama and Jason Tatum.
Whoa,
Right?
whoa, that's not bad. So, if I was Jokic owner, and I believe the Jokic owner is currently not in playoff contention, am I correct? I'm not sure.
No, they will probably be our fourth finisher at this point because our team with Shea and our team with Joel and our team with Giannis, Joel being out's really hurt them. They actually have a handful of injuries. And also, as per their team name commitment issues, they are struggling to keep their lineups up to date from day to day. So, look, that was an offer that I had.
I like your offer, man. I like your offer. That actually trumps mine. The fact that you didn't, get accepted on an offer sort of blows my mind a little bit. I feel like I need to load up my offer further then. How about LaMelo Ball, KD? How about Jalen Brunson? Would that be enough? Like, how much more do you want for the MVP?
As the discussion was, a very strong, like we talked about it with the Luka trade, right? So the Luka trade in one position is very, very strong, but obviously diversifying your portfolio there, getting different things. If Jalen Brunson and Chet Holmgren both have a 30-plus game, they're always going to outperform Luka's one individual game, right? And who did I fill in with those slots to kind of keep Luka going? For Jokic, he's going to give you points, rebounds, assists, and percentages, but he doesn't really give you the steals and blocks. And that was where the Wembanyama offer comes in, because Wembanyama went on that mini tear where he's averaging like 3 or 4 blocks a game. And then Jason Tatum hopefully fills up the rest of the stat sheet that makes it equivalent to a Jokic. They feel very confident that Jokic is untouchable. And as someone who obviously traded Luka and is theoretically doing better than they were with Luka, maybe a lesson learned for future NBA seasons. But I also kind of talked them out of the trade because I felt the immense pressure of if I had Luka and Jokic and didn't win the league, I feel like I would have to stop being a
That
fantasy owner.
that is 100% true. And look, man, I look forward to playoffs starting in a few weeks. We still got to. We're really assuming here we're not going to meet in the first round, which was potentially going to occur a while ago. And if I can get past Matt, hopefully in my matchup, and you sort of feeling confident you're going to take care of the fourth seed. You've been first seed all year round. You swept me all season. You got Luka Doncic. Oh, what more do you want, Nick, to just win a fantasy season? Yeah, it would be shocking. Here's the last shocking thing for today: if somehow I won NBA fantasy. Yeah, that's the reality of today's take. I don't know, man. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm definitely feeling the pressure. It's been harder to sleep as the nights grow closer to the playoffs. So fingers crossed, I've got good health,
Fingers
or I
crossed
can
you
make a good trade. One
you
of the
don't
two.
get enough sleep and you forget to set your rosters. Until next week.